So I think this is where we say, welcome back to NVC Dudes.
Welcome back to NVC Dudes. You are live with Brian and James.
Yeah, and this is an ongoing experiment of dudes trying to connect.
That's right.
Something like that.
Over Zoom, which is not our first choice, but it's just the way it is right now.
So we talked about NVC, right, and what it is for us, and yeah, you feel good about that?
Yeah, it was nice. Yeah, and I've always been curious about because you've been doing this for a long time. You've been doing NVC for probably over a decade, right?
Yeah. I've been growing and growing. Oh my God.
Yeah. So where did it all start for you? How did you even come across this thing?
Oh gosh, I had it was back in 2001 when I moved to Orange County. I was looking for a fresh start. Had ended a working relationship and a personal relationship, and I was like trying to figure out, well, gee, what happened? What's going on here?
Right.
Things aren't going well. And this guy, he had just come back from this 9-day intensive, and he was super excited and ended up starting a practice group. He said, hey, you want to come join us? We're going to be learning how to communicate and talk about feelings. And I'm like, whoa, what's that? But it was, it sounded about just what I needed, because communication was such a huge issue, at least in my personal and professional life. And man, I've changed a lot since then. I can celebrate that and put some money on it.
Celebrate.
Sure. Yeah. How about you? Where did you first run into NVC?
It was back in 2016. So not too long ago, but 2016. And I was at a retreat, which was the very first thing I've ever done with sort of like this deeper work stuff. And it was my small group teacher who was there, because we would break up into groups of about 5 or 6 people. And the way he spoke to me, it was just a very interesting and different way. I'd never actually been talked to that way. And I picked up on it, and I was like, you have a very interesting way of speaking. What is that? Because you're constantly reflecting what I say, and you're listening really well. And I've never had anybody talk to me like this. And he said, oh, it's nonviolent communication. You should check it out when you leave. I was like, okay, I will. So as soon as I got out of that and kind of processed that stuff, I checked out NVC and read the book and found a local practice group and just started getting really, really deep into it, and found that for me, it just worked wonders, because all my conversations became very different, and the way I connected with people just changed tremendously. So I found it so valuable, I haven't been able to stop. It's just been so great.
So it sounds like for you it was kind of like you discovered it and you're just steady growth the whole time?
Yeah, I think so. But it's a practice for me. It's something that, it's like meditation or yoga or something. It's something I really want to do, a couple times a week, because I want to stay in that zone. I don't want to lose that muscle.
Yeah, I like hearing that story. Mine is a little different. You want to hear it?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so I signed up for this course. I think it was like a 13-week. And I have to tell you, it was like foreign. It was like a foreign language, and feelings and needs, and I remember it took me a while to grok the words. And my teacher said, "Hey, why don't you just print it out, put this on your fridge, study the words," and that's what I did. I put my feelings on the fridge, and every day I'd go and study it, kind of look at the words and look for words that kind of would stand out, and I'd circle it in different color. And so day by day, and that's I started to pick up feelings, and honestly, I remember feeling confused, like totally getting like empathy confused with honesty, and a feeling and a need, and it's just kind of a big jumble for me. So the first like year and a half was just confusion.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. And I actually stepped away from it for a little bit because I needed to integrate and yeah, to have it make more sense.
Yeah.
And,
It resonates a little bit. I remember when I went to the first NVC practice group, I was completely unprepared as to how to engage with these people, and they'd all been practicing already. And kind of halfway through, I felt to myself like, this kind of feels like a group therapy thing. Like I'm not sure if this is NVC or not. I mean, that's what it said on the meetup, but I'm very confused. So it took me a while to really understand like how it works and the different ways you can have an NVC practice. It can be an educational, or you can sit in empathy with people. It's just a variety of ways to go about it, which I didn't realize at the time.
Yeah. So that first pass just didn't like click, and then one day I decided to go hang out with my teacher again, and I actually invited him to church because I was in the church, going there for community and spiritual connection, and I invited him. He goes, "Well, what do you guys do there?" And I described it, there's a band playing, we sing, and then there's a sermon. And he goes, "Gosh, I'm not really into that, but I hear that you're wanting to connect with me." And in that moment, I slowed down enough, and I actually looked inside, probably for the first time, and I saw this burst of I don't know, it was like a light. It was almost like something glowing inside me that resonated with what he asked around connection. And bam, in that moment I felt like this flurry of tingling sensations all the way up to my head, and it's like, wow, yeah, I want to connect.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like my first taste of real connection, and immediately that clicked for me, and I was so hungry for it, and I dove into as much as I could, training around Southern California. So
Yeah.
That was sort of like my awakening moment.
Yeah. And isn't it interesting that, I mean, you're talking about this moment of looking inward and sort of dropping into the feeling or connecting with that need, right? And something you've never done before, and that resonates with me too, because it was sort of a draw for the practice as well. Like I never really had that in my family or anything. Like nobody ever spoke to me or asked me those questions. Like, tried to guess what my needs are. I would just have those tragic expression of unmet needs instead. And it's almost awakening moment of realizing that, wow, this is actually important to me, right?
Yeah. Did you have a specific moment that you recall, or
I don't recall
a succession of them?
Yeah, I don't recall a specific moment the way you do. It's not quite that way, but it was more about doing it again and again and having it actually continue to work on a consistent basis as far as the outcomes of the discussions, and especially in relationship where there can be some pretty big feelings going on, and just having a different conversation than these really poor expressions of judgments and anger. So I don't know. I just like, similar as you said, I'm a different person now because I don't engage in that as much. I mean, yeah, sure, sometimes habits are hard to break, but for the most part, I'm much more aware of what I'm feeling and needing, and I'm able to express it, which is just the magic of NVC for me.
Yeah. The expression part, and what I really value also is the degree of presence that I'm able to obtain after giving myself the attention that I need, just acknowledging the feelings and needs and even my judgments when I have them, to connect with what's really true for me. And and in my church days, they used to talk about how the truth sets you free, and I think it's so true. if I connect with that personal truth, I do experience freedom, and I'm able to be present for other people. It makes me more, it's sort of like I have something I can give now. Sort of like I gave myself a little empathy, and now I'm able to listen to others.
Yeah, like we talk about holding space for people, right?
Yeah.
Having the ability to do that with this practice, I think that's special too for me.
Yeah.